This is a free sample of the book, The Financial Red Pill by Cairo Copeland. The first half of this book is posted right here on YouTube, free for everyone to listen to. If you like this content and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/finance. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/finance.
Chapter 1. No one gives a shit if you starve to death, but get over it. As you begin your own financial red pill awakening, we want to examine the world that you've been told exists, the world you've spent most of your life in. When your parents were young, working hard for a stable employer was the only game in town. And the work may have even been dangerous, but it was worth it because there simply was no other way to live. They paid off debts fast, or never borrowed at all. You may have heard the old phrase, neither a borrower or a lender be. That was accepted and popular wisdom back in their day. They might have gotten an education too, because back then, it was affordable enough to be funded by a summer job. Once it was discovered that you were in your mother's womb, your parents fantasized about what great things you'd become. This is an illusory effect of being a parent, believing that any shortcomings in life you've had have prepared you to teach your child how to avoid them and thereby live a more perfect life. Many parents are even under the delusion that this is best done by giving their kids everything they never had, when in truth, this only ensures the failure of their lives to be continued by their kids. On the day you were extracted from the womb, you were covered in placenta and bodily fluids, but considered adorable or beautiful or handsome. And after you were cleaned up, you were passed around to family members like an elixir of joyful restoration. You were the greatest thing that ever happened to your parents, and the thing that relatives traveled from afar just to see, and all you had to do was breathe. The undeserved adoration continued through childhood. Any shit you smudged with Play-Doh was hung up on the fireplace. Any pitiful smearing you did with finger paints at preschool was posted on the fridge, because you were destined to be the next Michelangelo, your parents told you. And a basketball hoop was installed over your garage because you'd be the next Michael Jordan. When you pounded something that was somewhat sensical on the play xylophone, you were signed up for music lessons to become the next Mozart. The Simon Cowells of the world were kept away from you. As you aged up through grade school, the days of freedom began to disappear. You'd get bussed off to school and told it was good for you. But deep down, and perhaps even early on, you questioned the usefulness of what you were learning. Social imperatives started to stomp all over your freedom. Not just from authority figures, but also from peers who told you what was and what was not cool. And perhaps you had been taught to put your pennies in a piggy bank because saving money meant a future. Perhaps you were told that school would fast-track you to that future. Clichés like, an investment in education pays the best interest, were repeated to you. This was all to allow cultural conditioning to take a foothold in your mind. Everything from Sesame Street to SAT prep courses. Then it was off to college, which, even if you wanted to go, you really had no choice in the matter. The parents said, "You're going to college," and that was final. Following the social imperatives of not only your parents, but also an anonymous authority that said you couldn't function in society without a degree, you went. The experiences may have been great if you were lucky enough to have them. Quite often, the college student doesn't work while in school. They live off loaned money as they learn and find themselves. The full college experience can't be had if you can't join a fraternity or party like a lunatic off the wagon. All you have to do is endure the 4 years of partying, which often becomes 6 years due to needless prerequisites. You endure these years to get a piece of paper that's a guaranteed ticket to the middle class. In an ideal world, your development into a person capable of reaching their full financial potential would end here. Next, after graduation, you'd get a respectable job, a corner office, make a middle-class wage, be looking at houses, and easily win the affection of a loving woman to be your wife. The American dream. In an ideal world like this, merit is all that matters. He who knows things, has the education without the experience, but does have the work ethic, is given a fair shot to show this merit, and he'd get thorough training for the job he was given. His accredited degree got him somewhere. He'd go places. In an ideal world, he could purchase what he needs to live with funds that he already has, and not having a credit history meant he was clean and a fresh new angel of a customer to credit providers. In an ideal world, he was also taught how to do his taxes, how to open a brokerage account, how to pick good stocks, choose the right mortgage, determine what insurances he needed, and his wife was just as good with money as he. If this is the world that you're hoping you're going to enter, I hate to break it to you, but you've been living in a dream world. This is not the world we live in, only the world we were promised. Welcome to the desert of the real. In the real world, it doesn't matter what you know. It's all about who you know and who you blow. You'll send out resume after resume to many prospective employers, only to hear either nothing in return or get an insulting blanket rejection email. You may respond with confusion because, after all, you had an accredited degree. But the truth is, it doesn't mean shit to the real world. It only tells them that you were able to convince a bank to finance 4 years of partying and were stupid enough to sign on the dotted line for a loan you'd likely never be able to pay back. I remember hearing some feminist bitch saying, "It's not fair that women don't make as much money as men when women get better grades in college." All that those grades tell you, honey, is that you're good at memorizing shit. It doesn't tell the real world that you're this great thinker or problem solver. You're just good at memorizing shit. So guys, please don't be just as stupid as these feminists are. Don't go thinking, oh, if I get good grades, I'm going to get a good job and make good money. No, it doesn't work that way. Even if you did multiple internships and worked your way through college, despite all this effort prominently displayed on your resume, all you're offered is an entry-level job, and you'll receive minimal training, if any at all. The employer will simply justify it by reminding you that the job posting said it called for a self-starter. All that means is that they're going to throw your ass into the deep end on day one without showing you how to even dog paddle. They will provide you zero training. Thus, you are unable to do the job well, and they use that as an excuse to pay you less. In the real world, you need a place to live, a car to drive, food to eat, and clothes to wear. And these things are not free. With no job lined up after college and crippling debt, you don't have the money for these things. And no credit history is just as bad as having an unfavorable credit history. More debt will have to be assumed just to stay alive as you work the entry-level job at poverty-level wages. Now that the debts are adding up, so too are the taxes as you progress through your job-jumping career. Each raise and improvement in wage is already spoken for by previous obligations, current taxes, and future imperatives. The consumer market and media are demanding you spend money on shit you don't need for your existence to be acceptable as a human being. Lastly, any woman you're lucky enough to get to overlook your setbacks is only using you for the little money you have left. Intentional or not, they are. See, some don't even know that they're doing it as they do it, but some know very well what they're doing. They often refer to guys that they date as meal tickets. I once looked inside of a girl's phone, and I saw all the guys that she had saved in that phone, and next to his name was the function that he served in her life. One guy was saved as Bill-Rent, because he was the guy that helped her pay her rent. Another one was John-Brunch, because he was the guy that took her out to brunch almost every day. And another one was Nathan-Cellphone, because he paid her cell phone bill. You get the picture. We as guys don't have that luxury. We're not going to be paid to exist or paid just because we're pretty. And girls are certainly not going to foot the bill for us in any way. They're looking to us to foot the bills for them. Now, suppose you're successful in life through hard work and grit to overcome all the previous obstacles. The final fantasy is that the woman you marry is as good with money as you are. And in truth, almost any woman you marry is pairing up with you for hypergamous reasons. Her choice in whom she loves is largely opportunistic and utilitarian. Much like the climax of the movie The Wedding Ringer, and spoiler alert, if you haven't seen this movie, you really need to go see it because it's an amazing movie for this. Many women marry a man only for the way in which he can support her preferred lifestyle. Just like how Gretchen in the movie The Wedding Ringer was just marrying Doug, not because she loved him, but because she likes nice things and he works a job that allows him to earn enough money to pay for those things. What they look for is a man that can finance that lifestyle and prolong it. And the moment the man in this marriage attempts to put his foot down, the unforgiving proceedings of no-fault divorce end up confiscating half of his wealth and future earnings. Due to the nature of hypergamy, most women will marry up economically and most men will marry down. If we have a doctor for a groom and a hairstylist for a bride, well, his standard of living doesn't change with the marriage, but hers dramatically improves. And the courts will demand that he continues to finance that improvement post-divorce. To add insult to injury, the society that created the imperatives that made such a harsh world for men gives no lesser a shit than it does for the men that suffer at the hands of its imperatives. There is more to the red pill of finance than just realizing you need money. That's a fact that's so obvious to everyone, even as some choose to ignore and claim they're living above it. What also contributes to the bitter taste of the financial red pill is this: the world doesn't give a shit if a man starves to death in poverty. So you need to get your financial shit together, because no one cares if you don't. No discussion like this is complete without addressing the myth of male privilege. I'm so tired of hearing this crap. I've heard it a million times, and not just male privilege, but any group that social justice warriors don't like on a certain day, they say, oh, well, that's a privileged group. There's male privilege. There's white privilege. There's really only one privilege in this world that exists, and that's beauty privilege. I know, because in my career, I saw people that were dumb, really, really dumb, getting jobs that they don't deserve just because they're pretty. And that was the only privilege that I've ever seen in my entire life. Other than that, when other people tell you that you're privileged, what they're really saying, but they don't want to say, they don't want to articulate these words specifically, is, I don't like it how you have more than me in life, and I can't believe the fact that it's because I'm fucking lazy and you worked hard, so I'm just gonna say that you're privileged to excuse my fucking laziness. Because that's the truth of it. Any asswipe out there that says another group is more privileged than them based on a racial or gender characteristic is only saying that because they're just fucking lazy. But this myth really needs to be debunked. The myth stating that males have an easy life ahead of them, that they can do the same work women do and get paid twice as much. The myth of male privilege. I mean, when you think about this wage gap shit, I mean, if I wanted to create a company that had an incredible advantage in the marketplace, then what I'd do is I would only hire women. Because apparently we can get away with paying women less, so let's just hire women. We'll save 20% on wages and labor costs and immediately push ahead of all of our competitors and run them out of business. It's fucking bullshit. The wage gap. Not a shred of truth to it. But what is true is that this world couldn't care less about making life easier for men, nor does it care if men even live at all. Look no further than the fact that the male suicide rate is higher than the general population, and how no one in the media is talking about it. We are disposable just for being male. Who will have their life ruined and future shattered by a false accusation of assault and inappropriate harassment? A man or a woman? Women who become involuntarily pregnant don't have to live with the consequences of it if they don't want to. They are free to abort. But a man plagued with paternity fraud has no such luxury. Who's working the jobs that are undesirable? Do you see a lot of women working on oil rigs or working in mines? Do you see them on the Highline power poles? Or do you even see them working a garbage truck? No. you don't. You see them in the lowest paid careers, like teaching and social work. It's not men that are forcing them to take these careers. Last I checked, you get to choose what you study in college and what career you prepare for. It's a free economy. So shut up about the wage gap if you chose a low-paying career like that. But let's get back to that garbage collector. I mean, is the garbage collector riding on the back of a garbage truck, getting up at the crack of dawn in adverse weather to have the freedom to oppress his wife? No! He's given up a large partition of his freedom in order to provide for his wife. Women may lose out on 30% of their income. Well, guess what? Men lose out on 6 years of their life. Women lose a job opportunity. Men lose their kids. If a woman loses a job, she can go elsewhere. But if a man loses his kid, he can't go elsewhere to get another kid now, can he? Can't replace that kid so easily. So where's this male privilege that they speak of? They say it's in wages because women have the majority of college degrees, but the minority of income. How much does that really matter, though? Because while women earn 18 trillion of all income worldwide, they spend 28 trillion of all transactions worldwide. Where are they getting that money from? In many cases, from their men. Maybe they make less money, but they're not really hurting for money because they spend their husband's money. But also, if we look at women that are not married, there's plenty of ways for them to make money too. For one, there's a seekingarrangements.com. It's a website that allows women to seek out sugar daddies, or plainly put, a man with money that will pay them just for the sole fact that they exist, and their existence is pretty. That's not to say all women would do this. There are enough that would object and say it's no different from being a prostitute. Women fear being regarded as sluts as much as men fear being viewed as weak and pathetic. Prostitution is also a dangerous business, but women can still partake in the profits while only doing some of the action and even while maintaining some secrecy. You see, dancing at the local strip club is one such option. Some call it exploitation of women. To me, it looks more like exploitation of men. You give a woman money just because she's not wearing any clothes in front of you. Also, you can't touch her or yourself. Gee, who's getting the short end of the stick there? Still, not all women do this, because there's shame involved if people she knows see her. But there are ways to profit off men's biological imperatives without prostituting or stripping for the locals. There's webcamming, where you can block certain states or entire countries from seeing your cam show. If men have it so easy and women have it so hard, how is it then that women can get money from men so easily? All a woman has to do is put her Cash App or Venmo handle or Amazon wish list on her Instagram profile, and she will receive unearned income from it. Can we do the same as men? Definitely not. Which creators on OnlyFans, ManyVids, and Patreon make the most money from those platforms, male or female content creators? The answer is definitely the females, where all they need is a few pictures of them in bikinis, maybe even a video. Unlike it is for men, the ideal world exists for women where they can be paid just for their existence. They don't even have to be 9s and 10s either. Now, none of this is to bitch nor complain. Many men, myself included, would rather earn or keep. We believe that all happiness is earned. If anything, this unfairness is created by the pathetic guys that send money to the Instagram stars in hopes that she will find favor in him and possibly develop a real relationship. He really is that pathetic, and we have a word for such a man: simp. But the unfairness doesn't stop there. It continues. Women are able to move back in with their parents and not be shamed for it. Now, many men wouldn't even want to make this move, but sometimes they have no other choice. I mean, that was certainly the case for me right after college. It was the height of the recession, and there were no jobs for the useless degree the education industry gave me. An industry that is out to rob you of your future. And after listening to this book, you'll be able to avoid it without guilt. The guy that does this is made fun of by society and sitcoms, such as Howard Wolowitz from The Big Bang Theory. And there is no chance any guy that does this will ever get laid if his female prospect finds out about it. When women must do this, their acts of desperation are met with compassion. They're led to believe they had no choice in the matter because it's an oppressive male world that caused it. But should a man need to, he's a total failure, and that's the end of the story. Affirmative action and corporate initiatives favor women. These initiatives are made in hopes of increasing diversity. But the subtext of that call for diversity is anyone but another guy. There is a large push to have more female executives, but no push to have them qualified to be executives. There's even a whole department of every corporation made for the sole purpose of employing women that do not possess the skills to do anything else. Human resources. When was the last time you saw a guy working in HR? The world turns a blind eye to what a male executive had to sacrifice in order to become an executive and believes he's only there due to his luck in the genetic lottery. Profitable education programs are actively limiting male admissions. You may have seen many advertisements and PSAs that portray males like father figures, big brothers, male teachers, etc., as discouraging women from studying and pursuing careers in science and engineering, like they are the oppressive villains that keep the girls down. But if we ask the guys that were already studying these difficult subjects, they'll tell you that they want more women classmates. That's because college is one place where you not only get to talk to attractive girls you otherwise wouldn't get to, but in a class setting, you kind of have to. Further, as they move on into their careers, many of the guys do not have the skill sets to attract women outside of their social circles, work being the main one for them. Therefore, they would welcome more women in these careers because they'd have access to them and something in common with them to talk about. These education administrators are now limiting male admissions, believing that the boys will find another way to make a living without the benefits of a marketable skill. Also, believing that males have had their time and now someone else should have a turn. The single male suffers from an unforgiving tax code, and the labor force hates him. Notice the difference between filing your taxes single versus filing them as married filing jointly. While this is also true for women, there are more social programs in place, such as women's shelters, to help struggling single women. There are no such programs nor shelters for men. And if such things existed, there's no doubt a man would be shamed for using them. Employers are no better. The better paying jobs often go to married men for an intentional reason. The employer knows that a man married with children has obligations that he cannot separate himself from. Therefore, he will show up to work on time and do all they ask him to do without question. He must be a provider, more so than he must have his pride. With all the financial and social engineering encouragement to make men seek marriage, the marriage market is even more unkind to him, ironically. The world operates on the premise of female primacy. This means that men must put in the effort to become what women want and do the things that please her, but she doesn't have to do a thing that he wishes. Look at the profiles of women on dating apps. They often include a list of requirements and deal breakers. Sometimes reading these things makes you feel like you're in a hostage negotiation. Meet these demands in order to be acceptable. Any failure to meet these demands will get you flaked on, ghosted on, or dumped. After all, there is a reason that I wrote the book on the subject of dating, Never Ghosted Again. It's pervasive in today's world. Divorce law is very cruel toward men. While successful pushes for equality have gotten women to become more than just her husband's property, these developments have not carried over into our court system. They still operate on the outdated premise that a woman is nothing without her husband. And even if he did no wrong to her, she requires his support for the rest of her life. Like she can't get by doing anything else. Social scientists estimate that while 42% of marriages end in divorce, 66% of them are initiated by women. And we're the ones with commitment issues? Come on. It only takes an accusation of sexual misconduct to ruin a man's life. It doesn't even have to be true. He doesn't even have to be convicted for him to have his life ruined. Insurance premiums are higher for males. When it comes to auto insurance, we're believed to be dangerous on the road. Even if you've driven 5 miles under the speed limit your whole life, the actuaries have spoken and determined that you're a threat. When it comes to life and disability insurance, we're hit with a hefty bill. Even if you only do office work, don't smoke, and exercise regularly, the underwriters have spoken and find you to be a higher risk. Because on that note, the good paying work that men can get is often undesirable and puts their lives at risk. When the media wails about men being paid more than women, there's only one element of truth to that. Men do the work that women don't want to do. How many women do you see working on oil rigs? How many rig up hot wires on high-line power poles? How many do high-rise construction or anything involving explosives? Men with money are often used for it. There are whole websites made for women to find themselves sugar daddies. And on that note, any man who happens to have a sugar mama will be shamed for it. Further, it's perfectly acceptable for a wife to not work, but rather stay at home to raise the kids while her man supports her. No such acceptance is afforded to men who do the same thing. The consumer market and media are out to prevent you from being financially independent. The consumer market encourages you to blow your hard-earned savings on hot cars to get girls, saying you need to have them to even have a chance with them. Continuing with this theme is an expectation of you to have a woman. David Wong of Cracked.com wrote that men feel they are owed a woman because of portrayals of heroes winning their romantic interests in film and TV. He should change his name to David Wrong, because the media's message is that you must have a woman. It's a minimum expectation in order for you to be in good standing with society. And if you don't, then you're just a fucking loser. The media also tells you that you're stupid and portray you as such. Homer Simpson, Peter Griffin, American Dad. Not just sitcoms made for laughter, but also advertisements. You've seen the ones where the wife goes out on a business trip and leaves the cooking responsibilities to the dad, who's so incompetent in the kitchen, he puts shelled avocados in the blender. May we also remind this media that it was a man who made the patent for the blender. To hammer in the mandate that you must have a woman, these buffoons are portrayed to be nothing but drags on their family and society if their wives were absent. Lois is the only thing that gives value to Peter Griffin. Without Marge, Homer may as well drink himself into an early grave. There is greater pressure on men to show off their wealth through extravagant spending. Impressions about us are immediately formed by the car you drive, the shoes you wear, the size of your living space, and the expensive level of your dates. In something that supposedly is pure from this spending imperative, romance, the burden is all on him to buy her an expensive ring. No equivalent expense is expected of her. Intentionally or not, the message is quite clear from both entities. One wants you to spend all your laborious earnings on shit you don't need. The other tells you that you're too stupid to be anything more than a buffoon and not worth a shit without a woman. But perhaps the most bitter dose of the financial red pill is this: we're loved only conditionally. Women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. But a man is only loved under the condition that he provides. When a man starts dating a woman, the first question that's asked of him by his peers is, what's she like? How does she look? When a woman starts dating a man, the first question she's asked by her peers is, what does he do? We must be doing something, and something respectable. We must provide in order to be loved. This is your financial red pill. The world doesn't give a shit about you and your survival. You're stupid and not worth a shit without a woman, whom you're not even worthy of. Social imperatives are against you and your success. It's perfectly all right if you starve to death in poverty. Look at the reaction from Good Samaritans to male panhandlers versus the reaction to female panhandlers for confirmation of this. Many men are checking out. They join MGTOW. They take the black pill. They drop their pursuit of women and riches. They turn to porn and video games instead. When women love kids more than men, is it any surprise then why men act like kids? Much of this has been about comparing the financial imperatives of men and women and comparing the situation that men are born into versus the situation and the world that women are born into. And it's almost a sin on my part, because comparison is the thief of joy. We shouldn't be doing this here. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to women and complaining about the disparity. I don't write my books to bitch about the disparity of easy money that either gender can make, and I don't record my podcast or make my YouTube videos to complain. This is not a lament on why it sucks to be a guy. This is a celebration of why it's great to be a guy. You see, if I wanted to cripple you, I'd convince you that you have a target on your back. I'd tell you that the system is rigged against you. I'd tell you that there's nothing you can do to improve your outlook in life because of this rigged system. As a result, you'd do nothing and accept the mediocrity of such a life. You'd be a victim, but not all who suffer are victims. Instead, I will tell you the opposite. As men, we have distinct advantages. We're just not told about them. I mean, all these feminists that run around complaining about how men have distinct advantages surely must realize that by publicizing them, men would realize that they have them and start using them. But they never discuss just what those advantages are, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's just some bullshit they make up so they have something to bitch about to excuse their own laziness in life. But there are some distinct advantages that we have as men, and that's the other part of the financial red pill. While the first bitter taste of it is about the financial disadvantages you have, the second is about the advantages you do have to counteract them. You have sheer strength and a high tolerance for pain. You have rationality and logic overriding your emotional thoughts and judgments. You have the ability to take the most powerful force within you, your sex drive, and transform it into an unrelenting work ethic. These tools will be your solution and salvation in this unfavorable world. And the solution is to reinvent yourself. That is what reinvent ideal means. Reinvent your life and pursue different goals. Chart a different course. Almost like MGTOW, we are going our own way. Every man needs to go his own way. But this is different. Instead of trying to fit in with what the social imperatives say, instead of following the script that society has created for you, which is go to school, get good grades, get a good job so you can supplicate to a woman, marry her, make her your wife, and obey her, happy wife, happy life. Instead of that shit, what you're doing is you're gonna focus on yourself by committing to your future self. Commit to your future self before committing to any woman or anyone else. Commit to giving yourself the best future possible. Commit to transforming your life into one that you would enjoy even if there were no women. Creating a life more like Kevin Hart's in the movie The Wedding Ringer, as opposed to the life of Josh Gad's character in that same movie. Making yourself your own original point of concern and becoming a high-value man. And doing this not for the benefit of society, and not for the benefit of women, not for the benefit of family or anyone else, but doing this so that you don't have to tolerate the bullshit of society, the bullshit dished out by women, any bullshit dished out by anyone at all. That is what the red pill is all about, and that is what it means to reinvent ideal. One quick pause here before we move on to the next subject, the next chapter. I want to share with you a free gift as a way of saying thank you for listening to this audiobook. There were so many you could have selected from, but you chose this one, and that means a lot to me. I feel very privileged that you chose to listen to this one with a very saturated market so full of choices. So as a way of saying thank you, I'd like to give you this free gift here. It's another ebook, and it's called DMs for Dates, using Instagram like a dating app. I will give you a copy of that 100% free. All you gotta do is head on over to reinventideal.com/DM. And what this guide will show you is how to carry conversations with women you wish to date and carry those conversations on Instagram through DMs. And this works with both women you already know and with women you haven't met yet. So I will show you how to save time and avoid the endless chit-chat and get her on the date sooner. So get access to your free gift at reinventideal.com/DM. reinventideal.com/DM. Thank you so much for listening. Now let's continue.
Thank you for listening to this free sample of the book, The Financial Red Pill by Cairo Copeland. If you enjoyed it and want to hear or read the rest, or want to listen to it free of ads, visit reinventideal.com/finance. The book is available on Kindle, paperback, and Audible at reinventideal.com/finance.